Hi, I'm Daniel Likis,
And this is Mick, the Doctor of Digital.
and welcome to Sex 101. This is our first episode of 2026.
New year.
Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope you will continue supporting our podcast. A new beginning of Sex 101 with Mr. Mick, the Doctor Digital.
You bet.
So, Mr. Mick, what we gonna talk about today?
Well, I think it's introducing this interesting topic. And from an article, men aren't a-holes, they just need sex. We are merely animals. So the basic premise is a well-known meme based on the idea that humans, more specifically men, are merely animals. If men need sex because of their animalistic nature, and that makes them toxic, then how do we categorize women? Are women animals too who need or don't need sex? So, academic research on the topic of human sexuality and mating behavior is vast and diverse, and it's difficult to summarize it in a single response. However, I can provide some insights based on various studies and theories. The idea that humans, particularly men, are driven solely by a desire for sex and are little more than animals is a simplistic and outdated notion. While it's true that humans have a fundamental drive for sexual reproduction, research suggests that human sexuality is more complex and multifaceted. And here's a few findings. Evolutionary psychologists argue that human sexuality is driven by a combination of factors, including mate selection, attachment, and bonding. This perspective suggests that humans have evolved to prioritize certain traits, such as physical attractiveness, social status, and kindness when selecting a mate. Research on human mating strategies has shown that men and women tend to look for attractiveness, youth, fertility, that is for the men, while women tend to prioritize social status, resources, and emotional stability. The concept of mate choice suggests that humans have a natural inclination to choose a partner based on a combination of physical, social, and personality traits. This choice is influenced by a range of factors, including cultural norms, personal values, and individual preferences. Attachment theory suggests that human sexuality is closely tied to emotional attachment and bonding. This perspective argues that humans have an innate need for attachment and intimacy, which is fulfilled through romantic relationships. Recent research on the neuroscience of human sexuality has shown that the brain's reward system is activated during sexual activity, releasing dopamine and other neurotransmitters that reinforce the behavior. This suggests that human sexuality is motivated by a combination of biological and psychological factors. So, while it's true that humans have a fundamental drive for sexual reproduction, academic research suggests that human sexuality is much more complex and multifaceted. It's influenced by a range of factors, including evolutionary pressures, cultural norms, personal values, and individual preferences. While humans share many characteristics with animals, such as a biological need for food, shelter, and reproduction, there are many ways in which humans are distinct from animals. Here are some examples of evidence that humans are not just animals. One, language and symbolic communications. Humans possess a unique ability to use language and symbols to communicate complex ideas, emotions, and abstract concepts. This is a fundamental aspect of human culture and society and is not seen in animals. I grant that there is some communication among animals, but I need to be more specific. Animals can communicate, but they do not exhibit language or engage in symbolic communication. Cognitive abilities. Humans have a highly developed brain that enables us to think abstractly, solve complex problems, and engage in creative activities. While animals are capable of learning and problem solving, their cognitive abilities are generally more limited than those of humans. What's the saying? Given enough time, a monkey typing randomly on a typewriter will eventually produce the complete works of William Shakespeare. This is a thought experiment that illustrates the concept of infinite monkey theorem, which states that a monkey typing randomly on a typewriter for an infinite amount of time will eventually produce every possible combination of keys, including the complete works of Shakespeare. The idea is that the monkey's random typing will eventually produce a perfect replica of Shakespeare's plays and poems simply by chance. However, the probability of this happening is extremely low, and it would take an incredibly long time for the monkey to produce something as complex and coherent as Shakespeare's works. The saying is often used to illustrate the concept of probability and the idea that even with an infinite amount of time, the probability of a specific event occurring is still extremely low. It's also used to make the point about the complexity and uniqueness of human creativity and how it's unlikely that a monkey or any other animal could produce something as sophisticated and meaningful as Shakespeare's works. Social complexity. Human societies are characterized by complex social structures, including cultures, governments, and economies. These social systems are not seen in animals, which typically live in smaller groups with simpler social hierarchies. Self awareness and consciousness. Humans possess a sense of self awareness and consciousness that is not seen in animals. We're able to reflect on our own thoughts, emotions, and experiences and have a sense of our own existence. Has anyone seen an animal stand in front of a mirror to primp up their appearance? Humans do this naturally because we recognize our consciousness. Art and culture. Humans have a unique capacity for creativity and artistic expression, which is not seen in animals. We create music, art, literature, and other forms of cultural expressions that are not found in the natural world. No monkey can create a Latin rhythm on the bongos. Technology and innovation. Humans have developed a wide range of technologies and innovations that are not seen in animals. From tools and machines to computers and smartphones, our technological advancements have transformed the way we live and interact with the world. Morality and ethics. Humans have a complex moral and ethical system that is not seen in animals. We have developed codes of contact, laws, and social norms that guide our behavior and help us navigate complex social situations. Emotional intelligence. Humans have a highly developed emotional intelligence that enables us to understand and manage our own emotions as well as those of others. This is not seen in animals, which typically respond to emotions in a more instinctual ways. These are just a few examples of many ways in which humans are distinct from animals. In conclusion, while we share many characteristics with animals, our unique cognitive, social, and cultural abilities set us apart as a species.
Yes, we are unique people. I think having sex and doing exercise, they are the same because your brain secreting dopamine, the same chemicals.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Mick, what is the freedom paralysis?
The writer of the original article is Justin Ross, and he claims that there's a million things going wrong between men and women. Scott Galloway say men don't take enough risks, they don't make enough of themselves. Dating coaches say we aren't available publicly. Louise Perry says women have unrealistic expectations of how wonderful and fulfilling relationships ought to be. Galloway is an American professor, author, and entrepreneur. He's a professor of marketing at New York University's Stern School of Music and is known for his expertise in digital marketing, e commerce, and technology. Lewis Perry is a British writer, journalist, and feminist who has written extensively on topics such as feminism, gender, and sexuality. Justin agrees with all of these critiques. There's a million things going wrong. Not only that, but he says the details of the dating marriage landscape are clearly going wrong for both men and women. This is what he means by the freedom paralysis. We have maximum freedom, and men and women may have exactly the relationships they want all the time. We are so free, we don't understand what we want or need as much as we think we do. With all this freedom, men and women don't commit and are not serious anymore. Relationships are not any better. That much is certainly true. Ross says we are deeply, profoundly unserious about everything, including relationships. But there's one thing in particular that Justin is focused on, and that is men's relationship with sex. Our time is a virtual cornucopia of sex, and we put Sodom and Gomorrah to shame. What's your pleasure? You can have it all. Friends with benefits, polyamorous, polygamous, open relationship, gay, bi, threesome, trans, pick a card, any card. You can have it all or any combination at any time with anyone you choose. The mainstream message is to embrace your sexuality no matter what. However, Thinkers and philosophers have offered various perspectives on the implications of unlimited choices of sex partners in our eras. Here are some examples. Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche, a German philosopher, argued that the proliferation of sexual freedom and the decline of social norms would lead to a will to power and a rejection of traditional values. He believed that this would ultimately lead to a more authentic and creative human existence. Nietzsche also recognized that the decline of traditional social norms would lead to greater unhappiness. And why? Because most people are not living authentically and creatively. He nails it. Moreover, Sigmund Freud, the Austrian psychoanalyst, saw the rise of sexual freedom as a reflection of the increasing importance of the individual's desires and needs. He believed this would lead to a greater emphasis on personal fulfillment and happiness, but also warned of the potential for chaos and disorder if individuals were not able to regulate their desires. We now have chaos and disorders as individuals are not capable of regulating their desires. Baudrillard, a French philosopher and sociologist, argued that the rise of sexual freedom was a reflection of the increasing importance of the hyperreal and the simulacrum in modern society, something that's false, in other words. He believed that it would lead to a greater emphasis on the superficial and the fleeting and a decline in traditional values and institutions. I think it's clear that the decline in traditional values has unfortunately led to superficial and fleeting. Technology is completely based on a TikTok like imaginary and artificial world for people to inhabit. Most people are living lives of delusion. And not only Western thinkers have addressed the malaise of modern man. Centuries ago, the Buddha pointed out the increase in desire leads to unhappiness. The Buddha taught that the increase in desire would lead to greater pain and suffering. In the Pali Canon, the Buddha said, "Monks, these are two kinds of craving for sensual pleasure and craving for existence. And what is the origin of these two kinds of craving? It is the craving for sensual pleasure that is the origin of the craving for existence, and the craving for existence that is the origin of craving for sensual pleasure. And what is the result of these two kinds of craving? It is suffering, I say." The Buddha also taught that the more one desires, the more one suffers. In the Dhammapada, he said, "Desire is the root of suffering, and the end of desire is peace. The more one desires, the more one suffers." The Buddha also taught that the increase in desire would lead to greater ignorance and delusion, which would lead to greater suffering. In the Dhammapada, he said, "Desire is the root of ignorance, and the end of desire is wisdom. The more one desires, the more one is deluded." In summary, the Buddha taught that the increase in desire would lead to greater pain and suffering, and that the end of desire is peace, wisdom, and happiness. These are just a few examples of the many perspectives that have offered on the implications of unlimited choices of sex partners in our era. Both Eastern and Western thought the so called birth of freedom of sex partners has led to greater unhappiness and frustrations. Justin's focus on men's sexuality is oblivious to the negative implications of his thought. Ross continues, "Women seem to be overwhelmed by unlimited sexual desire and disgusted by it. He wants to ask honest questions about men's sexuality, although," he quote, "we have been culturally taught not to accept it, or perhaps because we're afraid of the answers it might be." Okay, let's go down that road with Ross and his two questions. In conclusion, why do men want sex so badly all the time? And why is that a problem?
Yes, indeed. Men think sex every time. So, what is the House of Misrepresentatives?
So I mentioned him before, but Justin says most men are not Andrew Tate, and that point needs explication. Andrew Tate is a British American social media personality and former professional kickboxer who has gained a significant following online for his controversial and often provocative views on a range of topics, including gender, race, and politics. Born in Washington, D.C., to a Romanian mother and an American father, Tate has been involved in various business ventures and has also worked as a commentator and analyst on sports and politics. However, he's also been criticized for his misogynistic and homophobic remarks, as well as his support for far right ideologies and conspiracy theories. Despite this, Tate has maintained a large following on social media platforms such as Twitter and YouTube, where he often shares his opinions and engages with fans. Ross's point that most men, like Andrew Tate, are not misogynists. On the other hand, they are also not doormats. I believe that Justin is trying to come up with the idea that most men are somewhere in the middle between misogyny and doormathood. Men, by and large, don't want to oppress, nor are they wimps. Ross does think the average man fantasizes himself as a powerhouse of sexual conquest and having women submit before him. It won't happen, though, because most men do not have it in them morally to actually treat women poorly. Most men are somewhere in the middle with their fumbling, trying to be good, and hoping that a gal wants to participate in regular good sex with him. Justin blames the outliers or that small percentage of men who are genuine a-holes, and unfortunately, the conversation revolves around them. Men associated with Andrew Tate's, the misogynistic, the toxic masculinity crowd, which dominates public discourse in the 21st century. The exceptions are taken as the rule, and as a result, the middling regular men get criticized with those who are actually the problem. Because of this, according to Ross, the average man is not only demonized for his milquetoast desires, but is also now terrified of women and of sex. In conclusion, that's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing, people. So, what is the nature documentary?
The first of the two questions that Ross asked, why do men want so much sex all of the time? Even the average regular guy who isn't assertive or dominant wants sex all the time. Why? Ross puts the answer in two words: it's love and biology. His evidence is every nature documentary you've ever seen. Males of most species spend their entire lives stupidly chasing the ability for sex, even enduring humiliation, exhaustion, or death for it, and men are the same. The thought that males of most species spend their entire lives chasing the ability for sex is a common observation in biology and ecology. While it's true that many male animals are driven to mate and reproduce, it's important to consider the complexity and diversity of male behavior across different species. On the one hand, it's true that many male animals are highly motivated to mate and reproduce, and that this drive can be a major factor in their behavior and decision making. For example, many male insects, such as fruit flies and crickets, are highly active and aggressive during mating seasons and will often engage in intense competitions with other males to mate with females. However, it's important to recognize that male behavior is not solely driven by a desire for sex. Many male animals are also driven by a desire to protect their territory, family, and social group, and will often engage in behaviors that are not directly related to mating, such as defending their territory from other males or providing care for their young. Furthermore, the idea that males of most species spend their entire lives chasing the ability for sex is a simplification that does not account for the complexity and diversity of human behavior across different species. For example, some male animals, such as male seahorses, are known to be highly devoted parents and will often care for their young for extended periods of time. In short, men are not simply animals and exhibit non sexual behavior, as do numerous animal species. Maybe Justin watched a more selective group of nature documentaries. Then, onto love. Ross says, imagine the happiest, most secure, most warm feeling you've ever had in your whole life. That's how a woman's body makes a man feel. Sex to a man is not just an output, an expression of love. Sex for a man is love. It's the same thing. Sex is love? I think Ross is on even shakier ground here. Sex for most men is just sex, and love is optional. The statement for men, sex is love, is a provocative and controversial claim that has sparked debate and discussion. While it's true that many men do experience strong emotional connections with their sexual partners, it's important to recognize that this statement oversimplifies the complexities of human sexuality and relationships. Firstly, it's important to acknowledge that sex is a fundamental aspect of human biology and it's essential for the survival of the species. However, it's also important to recognize that sex is not the only way that humans experience love and intimacy. Many people experience deep emotional connections with their partners that go beyond the physical act of sex. Furthermore, the statement that for men, sex is love implies that men are solely driven by their sexual desires and that their emotional connections with their partners are secondary to their physical desires. This is a simplification that does not account for the complexity of human emotions and relationships. In reality, men, like women, are capable of experiencing a wide range of emotions, including love, attachment, and intimacy. While sex may be an important aspect of these relationships, it's not the only factor that determines the depth and quality of emotional connection between partners. In summary, while the statement for men, sex is love, may be a provocative and attention grabbing claim, it's important to recognize that it oversimplifies the complexity of human sexuality and relationships. Men, like women, are capable of experiencing a wide range of emotions and are not solely driven by their sexual desires. The answers to the first question seems deficient on both counts. Men are not simple animals. Sex is not the same as love. The second question is, why is men only wanting sex such a problem? There's not enough evidence to state that sex is a need. Maybe women find a man telling her he needs sex is unacceptable. Wanting so much more sex is just annoying a woman further, I would think. They don't see it as a job that she has to just endlessly take care of that. Ross suggests that our modern cultural narrative preaches that women don't need to provide sex to men who ask them to honor their wishes, and we have taught men that they ought to be above that need. I don't know how sound these 2 points about a standard cultural narrative is, but let's just, for the take of argument, let it ride. Justin remains that the cultural narrative is unnatural, but we can work our way into better relationships. How do we discuss and move forward? Justin wants to employ the human beings or animal starting point, but I've already demonstrated how in nature this is arguable. Now I'll add a few more points to the discussion. From a historical perspective, the development of religions has played a significant role in shaping human culture and society. While animals have their own forms of social organization and communication, humans have developed complex belief systems and practices that set us apart from other animals. Here's some key reasons why humans are not simply animals based on the history of religions. Symbolic thinking. Humans have developed the ability to think symbolically using abstract concepts and symbols to represent complex ideas and emotions. This is evident in the development of language, art, and architecture, which are all forms of symbolic expression. Spiritual beliefs. Humans have developed a range of spiritual beliefs and practices, from animism to monotheism, which has shaped our understanding of the world and our place within it. These beliefs have been often used to explain natural phenomenon, provide guidance for daily life, and offer a sense of purpose and meaning. Rituals and ceremonies. Humans have developed a wide range of rituals and ceremonies, from simple acts of worship to complex initiations and sacraments. These rituals have often been used to mark important life transitions, celebrate occasions, and also connect with the divine. Moral codes. Humans have developed a range of moral codes and ethics, from the Ten Commandments to the Golden Rule, which have shaped our behavior and interaction with others. These codes have often been used to guide our actions, provide a sense of right and wrong, and promote social cohesion. Art and architecture. Humans have developed a wide range of artistic and our culture, architectural styles, from cave paintings to cathedrals, which have reflected our spiritual beliefs and values. These forms of expression have often been used to convey complex ideas and emotions and to connect with the divine. Storytelling. Humans have developed a rich tradition of storytelling, from myths and legends to historical accounts and sacred texts. These stories have been often used to explain the world, provide guidance for daily life, and offer a sense of purpose and meaning. Community and identity. Humans have developed a sense of community and identity, which has been shaped by our religious beliefs and practices. These communities have often been used to provide a sense of belonging, often supporting comfort and promote social cohesion. These are just a few examples of the many ways in which humans have developed complex belief systems and practices that set us apart from other animals. In conclusion, relying of Ross's understanding of biology about men and women is not convincing.
So we are human people. We are not animals. So why is a sense of humor required, and what should not a relationship be?
In Justin's world, while in a relationship, a man should not only take sex while providing nothing in return. In a relationship should not be a woman using a man for his resources, his strength, or his support without giving him love in return. But Justin, didn't you just say love is sex for a man? So how can a woman exploit a man's resources in exchange for sex? I don't think there's much progress in that view, but for a more positive direction, Ross attempts what a relationship ought to be. The wise husband comes home from work. Justin doesn't say so, but some wives work, and he has to put some of his energy into his wife. How thoughtful. He listens to her while she describes her day and sits with her. Sweet. Sounds like domestic bliss. And don't forget, Ross adds he helps her with the kids for a bit. What a nice guy. I wonder what a bit implies. A few minutes, an hour, maybe tops. The point of all this sweetness is to trade his attention and energy directly for her happiness, for her to be heard and loved and attended to. Justin comments, now this makes women sound like simpletons, like machines that can be controlled with a few simple inputs. And that sounds insensitive. Really? Think so, Ross? It does fit his orientation, though, that we are all simpletons and all we really need are those base level expectations. It sounds like a basic transaction, sex for support. To reinforce this base level understanding, he uses the analogy of a child. You can't call a child selfish for having needs. So, like children, women should have a man to fulfill their emotional needs as well. Justin is clear when he states about a child's needs. You're his mother. You laugh it off and say, I know what he needs. And you pick him up and do whatever the thing is, and you enjoy the moment of bonding. According to Justin, women address the needs of children, and men fulfill the emotional needs for women. Let's get the guys in on this for Ross. Sex can be that way too. Women give sex to men as their compensation for male attentiveness. Men and women like children because they have basic needs, but let's not think men should be above something as brutal as the need for sex. Justin says that women are not above asking things like, if I were a rusty paperclip, would you still love me? You lost me there, Brother Ross, but okay. Justin says that we get validation and commitment from the most hilarious, simple acts you can think of. In conclusion, we can laugh at our basic predictability or be offended. Those are your two options.
Not to be offended, people. So, how about honoring basic needs happily?
According to Justin, men and women are really basic, and the man should look after a woman's and wife's most basic needs, and she owes him sex. I've referred to a similar situation in a previous post and an episode about patriarchal sex. It does seem to be what Ross has in mind, and I sympathize with the woman who felt this approach was regrettable. She has a point. As much as I address the issue that patriarchal sex or simply penetration by the penis is unacceptable, Ross advocates it. Here's what I noted previously. Having sex for many couples means massages, cunnilingus, clitoral stimulation, or orgasm for both genders, often with or without penetration. Female orgasm and male orgasm can be equally valued and sought after, but there should never be any pressure to achieve either. Climax can be dethroned as the ultimate sign of successful sex, replaced by intimate adoration of the other person. Because love is the goal, everyone's desires matter immensely. Checking in to make sure your partner, whether male or female, is being heard and attended to should be the norm. Women should feel equal freedom to be the desirer rather than merely the desires. You should be deemed worthy of desirability simply because you are you. There should be no pressure to perform, only to be present, only to enjoy, only to have fun, only to rejoice in each other and yourself. Justin says that women should have what they want in life, but continues, and yet we can't lean towards those same women and whisper, you should probably have sex with your husband. He looks antsy. No, Ross. In conclusion, we can't. It sounds creepy and misogynistic.
So, why, according to the Bible and the Roman Catholic Church, God made sex between man and woman?
According to the Bible and the Roman Catholic Church, God created sex between a man and a woman as a sacred and holy institution. The book of Genesis in the Bible describes God's creation of Adam and Eve and the first humans and their union as a symbol of God's love and commitment to them. The church teaches that this union is a reflection of God's own love and unity with humanity, and that's a fundamental aspect of human nature and dignity. In the Catholic Catechism, it is written that the marriage of Christians is a sacrament, a sign and instrument of God's love for humanity. The church also teaches that sex between a man and a woman is a way for them to become one flesh, as described in Genesis 2:24, and to express their love and commitment to each other. This union is considered sacred and an intimate act that is meant to be exclusive to the married couple and is seen as a way for them to become one in body and spirit. The church also teaches that sex is a way for a couple to express their love and affection for each other, and that it is a way for them to experience the joy and pleasure that comes from being in a loving relationship. In addition to its role in expressing love and commitment, the church also teaches that sex between a man and a woman is a way for them to become parents and to bring new life into the world. The church teaches that children are a gift from God and that they are a way for parents to experience the joy and responsibility of raising a new generation. Church also teaches that sex is a way for a couple to experience the beauty and wonder of creation and to appreciate the gift of life that God has given them. Overall, the church teaches that sex between a man and a woman is a sacred and holy institution that is meant to be celebrated and cherished. In conclusion, sex is to bring life into the world, to fulfill the unique role of women in the world, bearing children, and how two individuals become one. And finally, that sex is holy and sacred.
Very well said, Mr. Meg. Very well said. And being a man perceived as an a-hole often stems from a behaviors that protect our arrogance, insensitivity, or disregard for others' feelings. This attitude might be a defense mechanism, a result of insecurity, or misguided to attempt to assert dominance. I think so, right?
Yeah, I think so.
uh, Men always think, oh, I am the man of the house.
Yeah, mellow out.
Yes, so Mr. Meg, another great episode. And again, I hope you will continue listening to this podcast for the year 2025. I think year of the snake, not year of the rooster. Sorry.
Okay, one
Year
of
of
them.
the snake, people. So, Mr. Mick, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Good time as always. Stay at home.
More to come, people. See you soon. Yes, we are the year of the snake.
You're the snake.